Hi everyone, today I want to talk to you about individual freedoms and individual privacy and how that's regulated both from a government, business, and from a personal standpoint. The first thing we're going to talk about is government regulations. Now, the government's trying to control user-generated content. The thought behind that is controlling the internet and stuff like that would actually make it safer, decrease the risk of hacking. But something that we've learned in our security classes is that really anything can be hacked. It's just a matter of having the time, the money, the resources. That's why most of the major companies that you see hacked are done by major governments such as North Korea, China, Russia, stuff like that. Another thing is net neutrality. This is the government saying that ISPs can throttle back the bandwidth on certain websites, applications, things like that, which would restrict your ability to actually be able to look at things and go to places. So this would be a invasion of your rights to actually go see things, do things, stuff like that. So when you say about that is like, well, they're limiting my access to stuff. Well, there's limits. There's limits to free speech, for instance. Now, Texas v. Johnson said that the government may not prohibit the expressions of an idea simply because it finds it offensive or disagreeable, which is the basis of free speech. But there are limits to free speech, especially when it comes to, say, for instance, pornography. Now, in Miller v. California, the government said that there's basic guidelines for what's considered obscene. So anything that's considered obscene is in violation of free speech. So that's why, for instance, in New York versus Ferber, that child pornography is considered illegal and obscene. It's also because it exploits children as well, but it's mainly because it's considered obscene. So freedom of speech is actually regulated, where you can't really say or do whatever you want. There are limits to it as well. Your individual rights to privacy also affect how you work as well. And say, for instance, in Sitten versus Print Direction Inc., there was a situation where a person was using their personal computer at work and using their personal computer to gain business for a side job that he had. The government ruled that emails sent on a company network can be used in court, even if it was being used on a personal laptop instead of an actual company computer. There's also another situation where a person was trying to communicate with their attorney through their company computer about actually suing the company. Well, the company got a hold of the emails and fired the person and ended up getting sued by that individual. And the government actually ruled that those emails are considered private, and they're considered attorney-client privilege. So those are actually controlled and regulated by the government as well. Another thing is the government has ruled before that anything that you leave open on your computer is considered public use. So if you're doing something you're illegal or that you're not supposed to do on a computer and they see it, then that actually can be used against you. So it's a good idea to always keep your screen locked whenever you're not at your desk. Another thing to think about is data retention as well. Now, data retention simply states that, because of the issues of being sued, a company needs to keep their stuff retained for a certain period of time. That deals with emails, that deals with data, things like that. So that's one thing that a business has to think about and do as well. Something that I do a lot is scanning networks. So say, for instance, we have a situation where the network at our company is really slow. Well, I can scan the network and see what's using all the bandwidth. Well, if it's, say, for instance, a cell phone that's using a bunch of internet bandwidth for, say, YouTube or Facebook or something like that, I can actually throttle back their bandwidth or actually just flat out disable them from getting on the network. So, just because you're at work, you have limits to what you can and can't do as well. So, what's your opinion on that? What's your opinion on government regulations in terms of net neutrality? Also, what do you think about in terms of limits to your freedom of speech or your rights and privacy while you're at work? So, thanks everybody.